Excusing Carrie Carroll, I was going to say Commissioner Carroll. She said she wouldn't be here today, so we excuse her. We would like to begin with a flag, Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and then is there someone who'd like to volunteer for that as well as for the invocation?
Do the flag.
Okay, great, thank you. Is there someone who'd like to do the invocation? Okay, great, Sam Brady, thank you. All right, please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, as we bow our heads before thee this night, we're grateful that we can meet as a planning commission here in Fruit Heights City in Utah. We pray that we'll be able to take care of the items that are before us in a manner that will be pleasing unto thee, and also that we'll take the cares of the city and work with them as best we can to uphold the zoning ordinances and rules and regulations that we are bound to uphold. We pray that thou will bless those who are hurting, and where our hearts go out to those young people and those adults that lost their lives today in Texas. We pray that thou will bless them, that they might receive that comfort and peace and healing that they'll need in the coming hours and days. We pray that thou will bless the leaders of our nation, that they'll do all they can to help work with the laws to help all of us to be in thy care and be safe, and that we might be able to work out the things we need to this night, and that everything will be done in accordance to the requirements that we are held by here in the city as planning commissioners, that we'll be able to do all we can to help the citizens to achieve their goals. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Diane, and thank you, Sam. Roll call is up.
Commissioner Brian Baer. Here. Commissioner Sam Brady.
Here.
Commissioner Carrie Carroll is excused. Commissioner Kevin Paulson. Here. Chairman Curtis Tanner.
Here, present.
Council member Diane Anderson.
Here. I didn't have that.
All right.
Love it.
All right. The next item is review, approve the minutes for April 26th. Any comments? Any on the minutes of that day?
I guess I have a question. Is it the Corps of Engineers that
Yeah.
did I get that right?
It's Corps of Engineers. Yep.
No comments? All right. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April.
I motion to approve.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right. It's been, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of approving the minutes of April, I believe it was the 26th, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The agenda calls for a public hearing, but we don't have a public hearing. There's okay. Subdivision review, discuss Rockloft Estate subdivision. This is not a new item, right?
No, this is not a new item. This is 7 years in the making. Do you want to go? Do you want to discuss, or do you want me to discuss? Okay.
Oh, before you get started, thank you very much for getting us the information. I'm assuming this is the latest and greatest from the developer's engineer?
Here. Here.
That's the latest and greatest from as of 12 o'clock today.
Terrific.
So there's some changes that still will be made. We met with the developer today as a staff to review the comments that we had, and they've addressed most of those. There's some that have yet to be completed, just because we discussed those today. So
Okay.
in the next few days, they will have updated that, and I will send those to you. This is the challenge I'm having, is the file is so big. I will probably end up just forwarding on the email that I get from the developer, and you can open it. So if you see something forwarded from me, it's probably those drawings. But maybe I ought to just we'll just kind of talk about some of the things that we went over today in our meeting. And we had some questions about some storm drain and how that was going to be handled between lots 17 and 18. There's a low spot in the topography, and we're using that low spot to collect and drain some of that stormwater. Because of the aqueduct through those areas, the Bureau of Reclamation is not allowing some inlet boxes. So we've had to create a small gap in the curb with the bridged sidewalk where the water would come through the curb, under the sidewalk, into a structure that would then take the stormwater away. So we worked through that. The developer's going to make some changes as requested by the staff. That was really the biggest thing that we discussed. There's some minor little things, some street lights and some fire hydrants, some water meters and meter locations. The detention basin at the north end of the development, there was some more discussion on that. That was going to be a system that was all underground. I don't know if you're aware, but it's really hard to get product.
Okay.
And so that has now changed again back to what it originally was. It'll be a detention basin, open, but it'll be lower than the road, the grade of the road going up there.
Sure.
And we talked through some of those details. And
Did they talk about the slope that goes up beyond the road, beyond the detention basin to
What
meet
page are you on? Chris?
13?
Thank you.
It's in the lower left corner.
we did talk
How
about that.
steep is that slope? What's the grade? What's the? I don't have my.
I don't remember. We talked more about the retaining walls and the height of the retaining walls in the lower detention basin area.
There'll be retaining walls there.
There will be some retaining walls there. Yeah.
Okay.
In the,
Okay.
so is that the grading plan you're looking at? Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Curtis?
It's sheet 13. Oh, you can't see it. It is the grading plan. So
Okay.
that's the plan. And it doesn't show up as well on your display as it does on the hard copy, the detention basin.
Yeah.
But
And
I can see that. Yeah, thanks.
yeah, so we did talk some about the detention basin and the retaining walls, and and making some adjustments there. So I believe that Reeves and Associates will be doing some adjustments. But as far as the grading, I don't know how much that's going to affect what's currently there, and I can find out what that slope is coming into that detention basin.
They've got an enlargement of that, a little blow up on page 19. Were you on
19, see page 19.
19? It's up top left, but it doesn't really have any percentage of slopes on any of the grades, and it doesn't call out those as, it appears those could be retaining walls around
Yeah,
that.
it says- yeah, it talks about top of wall, bottom of wall.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they have, well, yeah, we can see.
All right, well, we'll take a look. I'll take a look at that closer and
Yeah,
See
and
what
I
we can
can,
do.
I'll get some answers for you on this as far as the grading and the slope of that as it comes in.
I can figure that out.
Okay, okay.
Cool.
We asked them to make a change to the storm drain coming into that pond and move that catch basin up the road a little bit so that it's not coming in on a 90. Our concern was that maybe some of the water coming off that hill was going to go screaming over the top of that storm basin because it had to make a drastic change in direction. So developer's going to be making those changes. But and then we talked about the Bear Canyon crossing, the Bear Creek crossing, and the tying into 1800 East,
Yeah.
and making that a better transition as you come off the new road into 1800 East, and they will be making changes associated with that. We will have a 6-foot walk on the east side of that crossing and only a sidewalk on the east side. There won't be a sidewalk on the west side.
Closer to the mountains, that's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. We figure that that's probably the better spot for it. And so those changes will be made. We are, let's see, we got word back from the sewer district. There's just a couple of notes that they are working with the sewer district on, but other than that, it sounds like that portion of it is complete.
Let's stay there.
And we are waiting for just let's see, we already got Weber Basin. That's taken care of. We're just going to have a signature block on the Davis County Flood Control. Yeah. Davis County Flood Control, we're waiting for their sign off and approval. They have jurisdiction over the Bear Creek area and the pipe going underneath the road, and there's some special needs that have to happen with that water as it comes through the pipe and dumps out over the Weber Basin Aqueduct. There needs to be some measures taken to slow the flow or slow the speed of the water as it comes shooting out of the pipe. So they've taken care of those. I have met with Hates Creek Irrigation a couple of times on the crossing at Bear Creek, and I believe we have those concerns taken care of. I'm waiting for a letter of approval from Hates Creek Irrigation on that as well. All in all, we as a staff are feeling pretty comfortable with where we're at and where we have been. And I would anticipate that the Planning Commission will be getting a final plat in our next Planning Commission meeting, requesting final plat approval. It would be nice if there are questions or concerns that you have, if we could get those and have the developer address those prior to that meeting.
Yeah.
And if you would like, I'm sure you can have that conversation with Reeves and Associates or with somebody if you want to talk through some things. So,
All right.
okay.
Can I just express appreciation for the expertise and intelligence of the Planning Commission and staff on this, because I'm sure residents would be really grateful to know that it's being looked over with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of that, with the final plat, is our engineer taking a final look at that as well? Will we get some feedback from our geotech expert?
Yes, we will get feedback from the geotech from Geostrata, who is our geotech firm. And then Brandon Jones with Jones and Associates has been through this quite a few times. But I will make sure that as we anticipate final plat submittal, that I get a letter from Geostrata, and that Brandon Jones is also here to answer any questions that you may have related to geo or related to
Civil
engineering,
Okay.
civil.
Does Brandon have like a list of their requirements that he's got out there for them to comply with, that we could have availability to see what his comments are? Has he reviewed it yet?
No, I'd be happy to share with you his red line drawings. It's in a Bluebeam. I don't know if you're familiar with Bluebeam.
I have Bluebeam.
Do you have Bluebeam?
Yeah, we have.
So,
Bluebeam is just a PDF reader, so.
yeah, it's all, his comments are on that PDF, and he did them in Bluebeam. He shared them with me. I'd be happy to share them with you, so I can forward them on.
Do you want to see his comments?
Yeah.
Or do you want to wait till they're
Usually
all-
the city engineer representing the city will have they'll do a review, and they'll have a list of comments that they want them to complete. I think the planning commission would be good for them to see what they're out there looking at, so that it's, we've talked about a couple of things here.
Most of that stuff will all be resolved by the time this
understand.
gets back to, you want to see that now,
Yeah,
though?
It'd be good to see what the engineer's looking at, so we can understand what concerns he's had.
Okay.
I can get those to you.
Is
I'll
it
just
like
get 'em in-
30 comments or something on 2 pages, or? is
Do you
it-
want them? Do you want the comments pulled off of the plan? Because he's just marked the plan.
they're
Oh, he
red-
hasn't
The
written
red
the-
line comments on the plans.
So he hasn't had a summary of
No,
item 12 or 15 okay.
no. Do you want to see the red lines, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can share them with you.
I just want
I think
anybody
as
else
much
that
as
wants it.
anything, it's just nice for us if we're ever asked is, we've looked through what our own experts, our own, set of eyes have looked at, and I may not understand any of it, but I can say I've looked at it. I know they've looked through it, and I have confidence in them.
We'll have a summary staff report ready to go at the next meeting.
Okay.
I did want to point out one thing is the front page of these drawings that are titled improvement plans. The plat that is shown on there doesn't accurately reflect the plat. I don't think we have a copy of the plat here to show you, but the lots 36R through 43R, they're not part of this plat. They're labeled future development. So you see some of that area in there that says future development. That also includes lots 36 through 43. They won't be part of this final approval. It'll be coming for you. Those will come later after some additional geotechnical studies have been completed.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, one of the things that they said in the development agreement, they were going to get a traffic study done. Is that still in the works? What's the time frame on that?
They did a traffic study. They've done a
they did?
traffic.
Okay.
That's in, and actually, if you go to the city's website,
Uh-huh.
that traffic study is there.
Oh, good. Okay.
So,
And I may have seen it already. I'm just making sure I'm crossing off the things that I
Yeah.
had on my list.
they did that. They've done that. I've tried to keep the city's website updated with current information. I haven't put this most current information on there yet because it's changing.
So Jeff, you've said that lots 36 through 43 are future development,
Yes.
and where on the other side of the future development, it's just shaded there you can barely, it's ghosted in. It's what, 54 through 66?
Yeah.
It's similar to that. Is that what you were talking about? Because it looks like they're real because they're bold and solid versus
Yeah,
the,
when you approved the preliminary plat, it didn't include those lots, so they didn't get that change made, but what you're looking at is improvement plans. You're not looking at the actual plat.
So the plat will identify those
Yeah,
36 through 43 as future
yeah, they'll just be
development.
left off and called future development.
Okay.
So there are a number of lots that will be approved in a future approval. I don't expect to see anything change in terms of like the lot layout for those properties. It's just that there's some additional questions that we needed to have answered, that that work has all been done. The geotech engineer hasn't written a final report on that piece yet.
Okay. All right.
What's the area 26R? There's a triangle. What's that about? What would that be?
26R.
There's
It's
a,
that future,
there's just a little triangle there below the road that doesn't have a label in it. I don't know if it's part of 26R or not.
Oh, it's just north of 26R.
it's that
Bottom left.
where Gary Anderson.
On
above
Terrace
Gary
Drive.
Anderson's.
Just to the right of the
Yeah,
detention.
that's just a little leftover parcel. I don't know what they're gonna do with that. Brandon, has that been decided?
It has not been decided yet. No.
It'll
get to-
either, they'll either need to dispose of it or put it in part of this block 26,
Yeah.
because we're not gonna let it just
Sit there.
exist as its own little tiny parcel.
Yeah. So in other words, every spot on here needs to have a label of
Yeah.
some sort so we can make sure it doesn't become an orphan and unattended.
They were talking about giving that to a neighboring parcel, but I don't know what they finally decided. I'll make a note of that.
Future weed abatement.
And then I'm just curious, this has always been through, and I'm not sure where, all the eyes that have been on this, but lot 14R, is that an interesting development for someone to leave that little thumb sticking out there towards the road there? That's the most interesting lot I've ever seen.
Yeah, 3 roads on 3 sides of it.
Yeah, it's got like a thumb sticking out there on the right.
Well, and 13 as well, 13 and 14.
Yeah, the backside, the mirror of it. I don't know if that ought to be just coordinated as open space or if the owner will, it's going to be landscape of some sort because it's not buildable, of course.
That's where you can put a shooting range, right?
Yeah, I believe their intention is just to leave that part of that lot.
I mean, it's hibachi is what I meant to say.
The challenge with it, as I talked to the developer, because I had that same question, it drops. That's why the road kind of snakes the way it does, is because
The grade.
the elevation and the grade is quite steep through there. So I would envision that mostly would be
Just native, untouched.
native. Yep. On both sides of the,
Right, Bear Creek.
yep. We did talk with the developer about the name of Rockloft Drive. We as a staff thought that maybe it would be best to call it 1800 East, but the developers
They were pretty adamant.
pretty adamant about keeping it Rockloft Drive. We were trying to think of, for ease, people up there on 1800 East coming, or people trying to find Rockloft Drive or 1800 East, ease of that. And
Yeah, one road it leads directly into the other. but
Yeah.
It has 2 names.
yeah, we've got that and we've got that in several areas of our city, and it gets to be quite confusing, but they were pretty adamant about not changing that. So
All right. All right, well, I'll take a, yeah.
Is there anything that the planning commission would like to have addressed before our next meeting?
So I'll get the comments to them.
Is it Do we have time tonight to just go through the project and left to right and just see, like, we've already brought up a couple of items, so what else is on the timing of this? As we're together, as we go off and take care of 25 pages, is it worth going through and just kind of having a walkthrough on this project and talk amongst ourselves, or what are you thinking?
It's up to you guys.
It's the latest we've seen on the development drawings, right?
It is.
And
It's
I'm
the
just
latest.
wondering if we ought to,
I mean, these
Walk
are all
through.
just engineer drawings
Yeah.
about improvements that are going to be installed on the roads and things, but we can go through whatever you want. You'll understand them, Sam.
well, just kind of just seeing that very point is seeing if everybody's, do they have,
A question, I mean, what do they talk about on the west side of Rockloft Drive lots, 1 through 10 plus? With that, you've got a flat right off the road and then there's a pretty good drop. I'm assuming this is a 1-foot contour.
What page are you looking at?
This is 15. So it looks like it's 1 through 12, where there'll be a pretty good drop down on the driveway to get to the buildable. Have they had a comment?
So as,
Has there been a discussion on that at all with the engineer or with the developer?
You're just talking about the steepness coming off.
Yeah, you can see there's like a 6-foot drop right off, off the road.
well, this is one of the battles I've been having with Hates Creek Irrigation. When we first approached this, they didn't want us to cut their road down. They wanted it to come in at grade. And so it was designed perfectly where it came in at grade and it didn't really affect those lots and the cut. They've since come back and said they can't have more than 6 feet of dirt over their diversion pipes. So the developer went back and lowered the profile or lowered the slope of the road from 10% to 8%, and in doing so created that steep grade. It does pose a problem for the developer, but he says he can work around it. I'm a little bit frustrated with Hates Creek Irrigation because they currently have 32 feet of fill over the top of their pipe and they can't live with more than 6 feet. I don't understand that, but the developer's making some accommodations to them.
Yeah. Where is the Rockloft pipe that we're talking about?
Where is what?
The Rockloft, you said, the Hates Creek, that pipe that you're speaking of, where they can't.
So just off of there to the right, you see where it crosses Bear Creek and there's the
Yes.
solid boundary line or property line. Just off that property line is where their 2 diversion pipes run underneath
Oh.
the road there
It's
from
labeled as-
Bear Creek
It's-
into their reservoir.
It's
pipes that come out of the canyon and fill the reservoir.
okay, and it's labeled as a existing SD storm drain?
No, there is an existing storm drain up there. We had to install a storm drain to catch the water that was coming off the heel years ago.
Okay, but there's another line there, huh?
Yeah. If you go
There's a
to,
profile.
if you go to
Find it here.
page number,
Give us a second.
Oh, water line, 12-inch water line?
no,
Yeah.
it's got to be back here.
There's a profile that shows that.
That's
You go to page number 9. It'll show that crossing and it'll show your profile.
Okay.
Davis Flood Controls also asked for access on both sides of the road to get down and do maintenance on the stream. So that's the upper right corner of page
Oh, yes, okay.
page 9. Yours is different than ours. You're good. You're good.
16, 17. Could we just go through, it looks like they've got a utility plan labeled at 16 and 17. Would that have all the different water lines and sewer and such that we've got? So we can see how it coordinates with their development. Does that cover it there? Those are the only, they've got a utility plan on 16 and 17. They've got an outflow on 12, but typically you'd see all the sewer, water, and so on. Is that going to be shown on those?
So this is I believe what this plan is showing is the high voltage power lines that are the lower line that has the 3, and then the Weber Basin aqueduct that runs under the power lines and then comes in just below Rockloft Drive. So that's
And you can also see water and sewer and all that.
in the road.
Yeah, in the road.
Which page are you on?
16 and 17. That should be throughout all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on every page. All the utilities.
But in particular, the utility plans are 16, 17, and 18.
Yeah, that's right.
Did the geotechnical have any special requirements for their paving and subgrade underneath the asphalt?
Yeah,
Beyond-
there's all kinds of special requirements, not only geotechnical requirements, but where they are on or over the aqueduct, there's some requirements
Bridging.
that Weber Basin has, and then all of the driveways that cross over the aqueduct are going to have to be approved, and Matt Lowe, as the developer, will be doing just the driveways that cross over the aqueduct, because Weber Basin or the Bureau of Reclamation doesn't want to work with 15 or 20 different people. So Matt has agreed that he will pour all of those driveways where they cross over. He's not going to pour the entire driveway, but just the crossing over
Yeah.
the aqueduct. So there's some special requirements that the Bureau has for those crossings.
They have to use what's called light concrete,
Lightweight.
made out of marshmallows, so it doesn't last very long.
There you go. Yeah.
But, that doesn't really matter. But the Bureau of Reclamation's got all kinds of requirements about crossing that aqueduct with any utility. So there's a lot of special recommendations, and we've gone through all that stuff.
Is that official at 78? Is that 78 inches I'm seeing on the outside diameter of that aqueduct?
Yeah, but that's actually going to reduce down to 60 inches. They did a 500-year calculation on that, and 70 inches exceeds what the 500-year storm calculation was. So they've got approval from Davis County Flood Control to reduce the size of that pipe going under there. What they do have to put at the bottom of that, though, like I said, is as that water comes through there, the Bureau's worried that it's going to create some turbulence and then expose their pipes. So they have to put Ajax. What are they called?
Ajax.
They have to put, there are these big jack-looking things at the bottom that slow or reduce the force, and that is a detail in there.
Kind of like speed bumps inside the pipe?
Yeah, well, they're outside the pipe. So if you go to detail, if you go to page 22,
Okay.
you'll see the contact detail just off to the right side of the page, and they look like big old jacks, like
Yeah.
bouncy ball jack game.
Okay.
That will be at the bottom or the downhill slope of that pipe as the water comes out.
They've got an X through that one portion on the outfall. What-
Yeah, Weaver Basin doesn't want that detail. They want the jack thing. They don't want the uphill portion of that. So that has been X'd through.
Is that what you were talking about, Sam?
Is the, as far as the jacks?
No, the pipe. You said 78-inch pipe. Is that
Yeah,
what you were
that's,
talking
we've
about?
been hearing you could stand up in this major pipe that's
You were
running.
talking about the aqueduct itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And this is about storm drain. The jacks is on the storm drain. right?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought that's what you were talking
yeah,
about.
I'm talking about the pipe, the main pipe.
The aqueduct itself is 78.
Yeah.
And
They
it
won't
will-
be reducing that to 60. That'll
Yeah.
remain the same through the project.
So that's 18 inches worth of elevation that can coordinate there as well.
Yeah.
And that's where they're going to take care of putting over. Did that turn out to be that easement across there? Is that 40 or 50 feet? What do you have?
Over their pipe,
Yeah, just that space for that
it's a 50-foot
50-foot
easement
easement.
from the center line of their pipe. Well, it doesn't center, if I remember right, it's not centered exactly over their pipe. It's larger
Yeah.
on one side than it is on the other, but it's
Sure.
a 50-foot easement.
It's within that, as long
Yep,
as it's
it is
there.
within
Sure.
that. Yep.
Yeah. Pipes running, that aqueduct's running right through lots. Interesting. How's that going to work?
They can't.
They have to
build
build
their
it.
house on it. They
they-
can't build their house in the easement. So we've identified that there's buildable area outside of that.
Okay.
They're not even allowed to breathe inside that easement. They
I
have to
know.
hold their breath.
Yeah. 'Cause especially those marshmallows, they get pretty careful.
Yeah, if you look at pages 16, 17, and 18, it shows the buildable areas.
Yeah. Just interesting thoughts.
So,
Like,
yeah. Some of
pretty-
those, the house is going to sit, especially as you get towards the end of Rockcloft Drive on the west side of the road. That first lot you come to, the house is going to sit way back. And then the second lot, the house can sit either side of it. And the third lot, the house will sit in front of it. So it's
Yeah.
just, it's unique.
Yeah.
and you've got, is that where you're mentioning you're going to have some individual be able to put a bridge over that area so they do it correctly?
The
for-
developer's responsible to build the driveways.
Anytime that their driveways cross
Right.
the aqueduct, there will be special requirements for the driveway.
Like 33 and 32 and, well, it goes all the way down the
Yeah.
line.
Yeah,
All-
all the way
all-
down the aqueduct.
Every
Sure.
lot on the west side of Rockcliffe Drive.
Fire lines, are there any for the hydrants? I'm seeing water, sewer.
Yep, the hydrants are there. Now the hydrants where the aqueduct is, the hydrant will be on the opposite side of the road. It'll be outside of the easement. So there won't be any hydrants within the Bureau of Reclamation's easement. So those will all be on the east side of Rockloft Drive. Street lights will be on the east side of Rockloft Drive. Storm drain inlet boxes will be on the east side. There won't be any utility or any structure over that
They
easement.
wouldn't allow any structures inside their easement, including like storm drain boxes.
Yeah.
That's why we have that one special circumstance where the water will run through an opening in the curb under the sidewalk into a catch basin.
What will happen if they bring cable up there?
If they what?
If cable is brought up
Cable
and,
TV,
yes.
it won't be deep enough to worry about.
Okay.
The what?
Cable.
Cable
Like-
TV.
The fiber and all of that.
Do you see where the fire line is then for the hydrants? I'm missing that somewhere. Is it a,
Well, you're asking an old man with terrible eyes. No, I
Oh,
can't
okay.
see it.
yeah, I've got the blue and the green down. I'm just trying to see the hydrant locations
Yeah.
and the line. I don't see other colors or any other for the moment. They've got some little red icons every so often. I wonder if that's no, that's a storm drain.
What are the
They would be
blue
blue.
X's? What are the blue X's?
Proposed fire hydrants are solid pale blue, according to the legend.
And they've got water lines. Let's see. Maybe that's there must be stubbing off that, Curtis, they must be stubbing off because is it let's see.
I would imagine that they're taken care of.
I promise you they're there. This has been signed off by the
Yeah.
occasional fire marshal.
Sure.
I trust him. All right, any other comments, Sam? We want to go more, or we?
I can stop anytime. This is just fascinating to see
Yeah,
make sure it'd be good to, like I said, I don't want to beat it up, but it'd be good to see what Brandon has found as he's scurried through these drawings to make sure
Yeah.
he's happy with it.
all right. Well, if that's,
Yeah, I wonder if they've got a little red icon on these at the edge of 44, 48. I wonder if that's their hydrant.
Is it the little red circle?
Kind of an oval shape.
Yeah, I see that.
That must be there. Maybe that's it, because I don't see any other hydrant locations off. And yeah, right. That's probably the hydrant, because it comes off and near well, it's in the vicinity of the water anyway. And I think they've got their stubs kicked into each of the edges of the property, so off the main line.
I didn't bring a pair of glasses for you because I didn't have a pair. Huh?
get on.
Here are these.
All right. Thank you for the information. We, I guess we'll hear, hear from the developer again next week. And you're saying possibly next month, the final plat approval.
Yeah,
The
we're
planning
planning
commission.
on it. They're pretty close. They notified us that building materials are just awful difficult to get. Anything that's concrete or plastic is in short supply. Steel. So they're anxious to get started on things that they can start on, because there's going to be huge lead times on getting some materials ordered.
Yeah.
Like 6 months in some cases.
Yeah.
Concrete pipe is really hard to come by right now. Really hard.
Concrete anything.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Brandon, with
ahead,
that,
Marcy.
we're talking about the size of the files and stuff. Could we ask them to see if they could put it in some type of Dropbox or link or something that would?
Well, Brandon can just share a link with you guys.
Yeah, is it a link then that we?
I'll
can
share a link with you.
That'll have the files, because otherwise it'll just blow it up, because it's probably like 300
So what you're
megs.
going to get is you're going to get Brandon Jones's review of the plan so that you can read his notes, and then you'll get this plan. Now, Reeves hasn't made all of the changes to
Sure.
this plan that Brandon Jones' notes are, but I'll give you this. And then when Reeves gives us the updated plan, I'll get those out to you just as soon as I get them.
Then we can get Brandon's okay, that he's reviewed the final set as well.
Yeah,
We'll have
those-
all that stuff done before this comes back.
Yeah,
yes.
all right. Let's move on to the next item. Other business, reviewed and discuss updates to the Fruit Heights City ADU ordinance. And thank you again, Brandon, for having this available to us here.
So I wanted to try and cover that. I've done a little bit of work since we met last time about just looking at what other cities have done regarding ADUs and short-term rentals. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of issues swirling around this issue. We feel like we need to get moving forward and get some stuff on the books because there's lots of things happening. But I do expect that as time goes on and we kind of learn different things, there could be some changes in the laws that we'll need to modify some of this stuff. But I wanted us to go over some, I tried to add a few things that I thought would be applicable to our ordinance that some other cities have incorporated, or at least have them out there for discussion. If you look at page 1, I've added the word shipping containers to the list of things that are not allowed as external accessory dwelling units. So
Could I add a little bit better definition to that? Because people could modify a shipping container and say, well, it's not a shipping container anymore. So perhaps we could say a shipping container based unit, rather than just,
okay. Shipping container based
It's all about semantics.
yeah, I mean, if you haul a shipping container to your property, you modify it to the point where it doesn't look like one, then they could legitimately say, well, it's not a shipping container.
It's a house now, right?
Yeah. So I think it might be good to say a shipping container based unit.
Okay. There's lots of people building things out of shipping containers now. We haven't seen that so much in this city, but there are cities around us that have had significant problems with people that they're taking their camping trailers on the side of their house and renting them out as short-term rentals. We want to make it clear that that is not allowed as an ADU. It's not allowed as a short-term rental. It's a camp trailer.
Another one that people are doing are sheds. They're converting their sheds into things, so that might be
Yes.
worth adding.
I mean, we've listed mobile homes, recreational vehicles, travel/camp trailers, shipping container-based units. I don't know. I mean, it does say similar.
Yeah, I think in similar units.
Should we mention storage sheds?
Yeah, I recommend that we say that it's like, for example, this doesn't include all of these types, but I think the key words that this facility, this outdoor accessory dwelling unit needs to be built and permitted to be approved. And then all the rest of them kind of go away. Is that a fair statement? Because everything else you're talking about is a mobile type device. It's hauled in, it's either rolled in, but
But there are some tiny houses that are specifically designed and they could be brought
that's
in.
to the point, designed and permittable to meet the building
Well, that
code.
wouldn't be permitted in this ordinance.
Tiny houses would.
No, anything external to the primary residence
The only
is
thing
not
that we're
allowed.
allowing is an internal accessory dwelling unit. It has to be attached and integrated into the home.
Yeah.
That's all we're allowing at this point.
And
Yeah, right.
that's just to give them a feel
It's just to
for
give
what we're
people
after.
an idea because they will try
Right.
darn near anything.
Well, you
I
could just-
think
you
it
could just
is good to
staple it
have the
building.
definition here, just because if there's a will to create, there's a way, and they will.
It's in there, storage shed.
Okay.
The next thing down towards the bottom of the page, I'd like to add this statement that no IADU shall be created, established, or occupied in a single-family dwelling unless the owner of the property occupies either the main dwelling or the IADU. The term owner occupied shall be defined as full-time residency within a home by the bona fide property owner as shown on the Davis County tax assessment rolls.
Are you saying that so if someone's son or daughter, the son or daughter of the homeowner isn't the bona fide homeowner? Is that what we're talking about here?
We're saying that to say that if you're going to have an ADU, the owner of the property needs to reside in the property to take care of it and look after things.
Yeah. There's,
That's the point.
or immediate,
If you don't like the way that's worded, I'm pulling that language out of some other city language, but that's the point.
What-
Is that the property needs to be owner occupied.
could we enlarge that to say like, or immediate family? I'm just thinking of my neighbor who's leaving on a, an extended, a mission. His son's living in the home. The son is not on the tax rolls as the owner.
Yeah, that's a good point. How would you propose to add to that?
Or an appointed representative,
Yeah,
I
you can
guess.
just have it.
Well, I think the problem
Oh,
is
that would be,
we get companies coming in and buying
Yeah,
homes
yeah.
and then they
I don't
appoint.
think you
Yeah.
can say that.
no,
Right.
that doesn't work. Yeah.
Some people do.
Don't you think that you'll have that? I'm just saying, I don't think that's our biggest culprit is having a family member take over and house sit a home for the time, months or years while the mom and dad are gone.
You don't want a third-party landlord leasing it to two unrelated.
Right.
Right,
A
exactly.
tenant and then
Right.
subtenant of sorts.
So does immediate family cover that, Curtis?
Do we have to say that kind of a deal?
It seems like that would.
Well, we have to approve these, right? Each of them
These
have
will
to come
in-
through.
These will come in to be approved by the city. So what you would expect to have as part of an application, we've got to create an application for this, is that they would verify that they're the owner of the property. Now, I suspect if they came in on an application and said, listen, we're leaving on a mission, our son's going to, live here while we're gone, that could be a consideration that you can make. But what we want to avoid is the very thing, Brandon, we're going to talk about that in a minute again, is these outside corporations that are coming in and buying up houses, and they are non-existent in terms of being there and taking care of things,
Right.
and things are just going kaboom.
Right.
And we'll need to be careful too, because if it's not sufficiently defined here of what's acceptable, what's not, you can get someone coming in and complaining, oh, their process of decision is arbitrary and capricious. They're treating me differently than that person, and it's not a fair standard. So we could require, maybe it's a power of attorney thing. I don't know that some out of city corporation's going to trust someone with the power of attorney to, manage their house like a parent might with a child.
That's why it's just so difficult, because the idea is the property needs to be owner occupied. And when you back down from any statement other than owner occupied, you start into this whole
Yeah.
cloudy realm of
Yeah.
what constitutes whatever else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
You start talking about, well, what if it's a family member? Well, what if it's a family member's brother-in-law? And then what if it's his business owner's?
Right.
I don't know where you end at.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
So what would be our stance if somebody comes in and says the mom and pop said, "Hey, I'm going to have my son stay here and watch over the house while I'm gone." What's our reaction?
I don't know. Maybe your stance needs to be, if
Oh.
you're not going to be there, don't do it.
All right. Well, excuse Diane, she had to
Brandon's
leave.
got Brandon's got a situation right now in the city where a family or a couple is on a mission and they're renting their house out as a short-term rental, and it's a disaster.
Yeah,
Right.
that totally-
It is a disaster.
that totally is.
This will be a common issue, and that's why it's a good thing to discuss. My in-laws, they live down in Lehigh. They moved to Florida for about 4 years, and they had 2 tenants, upstairs, downstairs. Fits perfectly for this sort of situation. But my brother-in-law, he didn't live there, but he was essentially the landlord's agent. He was checking on it. He was making sure that it was kept up to date and kept nice. But again, it becomes a tricky thing. How in one situation you can have responsible people doing responsible things, in another it could be a complete mess, nightmare for the neighborhood.
So if you were to say that it's kind of a no-brainer because it happens in all the neighborhoods where mom and dad go on a mission and they allow someone, they might not even be family to come and sit at the house and just take care of it for a year or so.
We're not addressing that with this ordinance. They can do that. They can do that all day long, but they can't rent it out as an ADU.
Okay, got it.
There we go. So that's all we have to worry about. So if the mom and pop want to do the son or daughter or
If
whoever,
somebody wants to go on a mission and leave their kids in charge of their house, fine. Their kids are staying there. But when you come in and say, now I want to split it into 2, I want to have this ADU, that's where
okay. Well, that solved my
Okay,
my
yeah.
concern right there.
I think that makes sense.
So
It's
I don't think we
clean.
have to go beyond the owner part then, because you just said we get into muddy waters when we take anything out from the owner occupied.
Now, with full-time residency, should we just cite the Utah Code statute for domicile, just so that there's no confusion about that? I think that's just 183 days out of the year or something.
yeah,
But
probably.
we can just cite that provision, just so there's no question.
Would you cite it in item D? Or where would
Yeah.
you cite that?
Yeah, because it just says term owner occupied shall be defined as full-time residency. And I think we could say just right next to that, shall be defined as full-time residency as that is defined within Utah Code section, whatever it is, I can't remember.
So what we're kind of saying is if the son or daughter rents out a space while they're living there, that's when we really get
Yeah,
into
it's when
torture.
they subdivide the
when they
house.
sublease it.
Yeah.
In essence.
What a surprise for mom and dad coming home.
Yeah, well, to the point.
Oh,
So that solves it, doesn't it, Brandon?
And they're
Because
just shipping
That
container in the
happens all
back,
the
right?
time. We're fine with that.
Yeah.
It's when
Yeah.
when the son or daughter sublease that off to someone else or a relative.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. Love it.
Let's go to page 2. That first paragraph, the end of that paragraph that deals with parking, just adding a statement that says, no on-street parking will be permitted.
Yeah,
This is becoming
Yeah.
one of the focal battle points with these types of things is that people are taking over streets with parking and that's causing a lot of problems. So when these things come in to us to be approved, we have got to be sure that there is adequate room and provisions to park cars off the street. And that's very easy to do, is say,
Sure.
you're not having any on-street parking whatsoever.
It's
You
done.
either get your car off the street or you're not doing this.
Right.
Can we extend that to people who don't have IADUs?
Well, we actually do have an ordinance that, 48 hours, Brandon?
24 hours.
24
Okay.
hours. We never enforce it, but yeah,
No, I think that's good.
I got a guy on my street that I'd like to.
And there's some neighborhoods, given how they're just shrinking everything, like Cherry Heights, where if you had an IADU there,
Yeah, there's no
and
room.
there's absolutely no
Sure.
room.
is there something that defines what? I guess I'm trying to avoid calling the front lawn an off-street parking.
Well, we already don't allow you to park in the front setback area of a property.
Okay.
So 25 feet back, you're not allowed to park anything there anyway.
Okay.
Other than the driveway.
So if somebody goes in their backyard and pulls it, knock yourself out in the backyard, on their grass, in the backyard,
I think we toyed with the idea of having some kind of a,
Paved surface?
yeah, some kind of a hard surface for parking if they needed to create parking for a unit.
In the front yard.
Well,
No, anywhere.
well, what I mean is,
Outside the setback.
so you've got a driveway that goes to your garage.
This is saying that you've got to have at least one off-street parking stall.
Yeah.
Now, if they come in and this is a 4-bedroom ADU they're putting together and that we may say, you know,
Once-
you need 2 or 3 off-street parking
Sure.
stalls.
Yeah. I guess what I don't want to see is people tearing up their front lawn and paving it so they can get parking.
That's what we're saying, is that you will be disallowed whether they paved or not in the first setback part of the zone by which they're in, right?
You're going to get to review these site plans. And
Yeah.
if it looks like that they're just going,
Helder Skelter.
Can
yeah.
can we cite that provision, the city code that talks about the setback in this? Just because I don't know where that I don't know what, like, I'm learning this today about the setback issue, but I'm sure most people aren't going to be up to speed on that. So if they can kind of hyperlink it, click it, get an idea,
Yeah,
that would be helpful.
That's a good point.
Just because I think that's going to be a knee-jerk reaction,
Yeah.
is people are going to be like, I'm going to rip out my grass, put some gravel down, boom,
I think that's
driveway.
a good point.
You can just simply add on, say no on-street parking or parking within the setback
Right.
is done.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be better to
We'll
refer.
just add the city code part.
Of the
that
setback.
Already talks about that. We'll just add it right here, so it's
Sure.
right there in front.
Because it varies, setbacks vary throughout the city, 25, 30, 20, whatever they are, right?
Okay, anything else on parking?
You want to add that the parking will be on a paved surface as well? Not only where, but it has. to
The
have-
ordinance, the current
That
ordinance we
that
have for
would cover it.
parking requires it
So
to be
it's a
hard
3 for 1.
surface.
Yeah, they're not parking on the lawn.
Yeah, so that'll be a 3 for 1. Perfect.
Um,
Does the state allow you to change your front lawn to a hard surface now
Flip the strip?
with the water rights?
Well, it's,
No, it's not.
hard, no, the state, so what the flip the strip, let's just talk
I'm
about the
just-
flip
that
the
was
strip.
totally
What the
joking.
flip the strip is they don't want you to put hard surface. They still want some kind of a impervious surface so that the water still perks into the ground and still creates a green space or a space. So they don't want you to go in and pour concrete or create hard surfaces. Our ordinance doesn't, well, that's a tough thing right now because people are building pickleball courts and tennis courts or pools with decks and lots aren't as big as they used to be. So that hard surface is
That's all.
larger
there's,
than what
yeah.
it has been. But we do have a hard surface requirement maximum in our ordinance.
If you go back to page 1, under number 2, internal accessory dwelling units, you can see that they'll be allowed in the RS12, the R112, the R110, and R18. So if you go now to turn to page 2,
How about the A,
the what?
Ag,
ag? My lot, my property.
Is yours agriculture? How many of those have we got?
How many?
areas do we have in the city that are still zoned that way?
I think there's several on the east side of Mountain Road.
We probably should add that, A1. I think we should add that.
There's a bunch.
I mean, that makes the most sense as far as any of the zones.
Yeah,
Because if you're looking at keeping them larger lots, those are
Yeah.
qualify as larger lots. Yeah.
so if you go, we'll add A1 to that and look and see if there's anything else that happens to be out there. I don't think there is, but.
Okay.
So number 7 on page 2 said, you have to have at least 6,000 square feet. I propose we move that up to 8,000 square feet to meet the R18.
Yeah.
I don't think that you want these things on something smaller than an 8,000 square foot lot.
Well, what's an example of a 6,000? I'm trying to think just in the city.
You could have in our R3 zone, you could have up to 10 units per acre. So you could easily have something that's smaller than 6,000 square feet or smaller.
Those Cherry Heights lots are,
That's about, okay, yeah, that makes
Those
sense.
Cherry Heights lots are 5,000 or 6,000 square feet.
Okay. Yeah,
And
that's
they're
helpful.
the smaller ones.
There's
Yeah.
just no room there to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
So we,
Number 8, individual
so we
rooms.
talk about building accessory dwelling units, but this is mostly about interior of a dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are basement apartments and
Okay.
Yes. So under number 8, I'd just like to add that sentence on the end of it. Let's just read the whole thing. An IADU shall provide kitchen, sleeping, and sanitary facilities that are separate from those provided within the primary dwelling unit. And then add the language, individual rooms shall not be considered an IADU. They need to have those elements, a kitchen, a sleeping, a sanitary, like a bathroom, that are separate from those provided within the primary dwelling unit.
do we
You
need to
can't
build that
rent
out?
You can't rent out rooms.
Right.
You cannot rent out rooms. You need to create a space that has all those elements in it, and it is separate from the rest of the house. If you're renting out rooms, you've started a boarding house.
Do we need to build out the definition of a kitchen, sanitary, whatever? Just because
it's,
I've checked out a hotel that says has a kitchenette, it has a microwave. That's the kitchenette. Boom.
so in the building code, and I would make this proposal that we change sanitary facility to bathroom, because in the building code, the codes state what a bathroom is and what a kitchen is. So a bathroom has to have at least a toilet, a sink, and a tub or shower.
Uh-huh.
A kitchen has to have a sink.
Period.
And so, I mean, I think if we can cite
What
to
about
those,
sleeping area? What,
Sleeping area
Bedroom.
is just defined by the size of the space. So I think it's a minimum of 70 square feet for a sleeping room, but it has to have a window
was
that
gonna say
meets
it's gotta
the
have fire
light
access,
and ventilation requirements.
ventilation issues, right?
So if you define those, you could reference the code. A
Because
bedroom.
people will play with this if we don't have a fixed standard.
So I would use the building code as the
Yeah,
fixed
yeah,
standard
I like
because
that.
That's
that
That defines it.
defines what a bedroom is, what a bathroom is, and what a kitchen
are we
is.
gonna try and regurgitate that into this? Those
Uh,
building code references?
no,
Or
what-
should we just say as per the?
As outlined in the International Building
Yeah,
Code.
as defined, yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Do you want to use the words that they'll be finding there, like bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, so on, versus sleeping and
Yeah.
sanitary facilities, and
Yeah.
just call it
Yeah,
out? like that?
however they're defined in that.
It would be.
I think we use those terms and then
Sleeping
say,
areas, or they just defined as bedrooms?
Bedrooms. We can,
I think they're bedrooms, but now that I think about it, I think they also define them as sleeping areas, but sleeping areas may have to do with multifamily or hotel motel situations,
We'll look
sleeping
at it
areas.
and see.
yeah,
it'd be good to reference verbatim exactly what it's in the code.
I
so
like
there's no
that.
question.
The point again is that you can't rent out individual rooms.
right.
Right. And therefore, when you go reference the code, it has to have certain stipulations to qualify and for life safety and so on, and accessibility. Sorry about that one, but it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing on page 3.
Sorry, can I just maybe help us just a 1 minute on this, back to the shipping containers? We're just talking about an existing dwelling.
Yes.
Don't we want to just say existing dwelling units? That would cover no other attachments or roll-ins or anything else?
Well, Kevin made the point that it's nice to define.
Give them an idea of,
To give them
Oh.
an idea of, hey, these things are not.
I'm trying to add on to
considered.
it. I'd like to say the word existing dwelling unit, because that way it's not going to be added on. It has to be an
No.
existing dwelling unit.
And then the list that we have now can be something like, things that don't fall with this include but are not limited to.
Right, exactly.
because people are going to continue to get more creative, and
Yeah.
we don't want to have to go back in every
Right.
time, be like, oh, now someone used a grain silo, so we can't do grain silos. We can't do this, just
Yeah,
making
you-
sure.
Yeah, you can't.
Sam, it says that in the first paragraph. It says the purposes of this section are to assist in the creation of new housing units to support a more efficient use of existing housing stock and infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as the key is, it's all about your existing dwelling unit, that's pretty much defined. You can't go, you either have to add on and get a building permit to do that, or you're going to do it within the premises of the existing building, period.
Most of these will require a building permit.
Pardon?
Most of these will require a
And then-
building permit. If they're creating an
Yeah.
IADU,
Yeah.
Under
gotta
under
meet-
number 2, internal accessory dwelling unit, says one IADU is allowed as a permitted use in a single family dwelling in these zones.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the word existing in so it doesn't get it out to a chance to get something added without a permit.
Yeah.
Just
I
saying.
think we need to use the word existing.
I would. I'd try and get that in there so that you have teeth to say, it's all about your premises that you have, that you can, put this housing element in. Otherwise, then you can just stop it there, and these others are,
Well, you could build it into a brand new house.
Yeah.
which is what you're
Well-
going to see now.
right.
So that would eliminate the word existing.
And do we have any structures in like A1, for example, maybe like barns or something? I'm just trying to think of how someone might manipulate that.
I don't think you can use the word
Okay.
existing because somebody could build this from scratch.
I got
Build a house with an ADU built into it.
Well, if it qualifies for the building, then it qualifies.
I got a home on Hidden Valley Drive right now that they have taken the garage detached that was a shop and have converted it into an external dwelling unit.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
You
at.
can't build an ADU, a
Which one?
standalone ADU. It has to meet the requirements of the zone.
I only know of one.
It's.
Yeah, I mean, we're
It'd have to
talking,
be it'd have to be in a primary, in a single family.
yeah,
home.
existing primary dwelling.
Doesn't have to be existing. Could be done from scratch.
Okay, at existing/new has to meet that requirement. It has to be within the premises of the build. All I'm trying to do is get it inside a dwelling unit instead of having these other things ratchet around and have to deal with a mobile home unit.
I think that's clear.
Okay,
And I think to your point, Sam, I think it's something we'll want to have a pulse on, because I think this will be one of ours, like the water ordinance, where we're going to have to revisit this, if not in a year, then at least every couple of years, because people are going to try to get creative. People are going to try to find their loopholes. So I think we definitely want to keep a pulse on that and see what people are trying to do.
So everybody's gonna have to come in here and get a permit.
that in itself will be very helpful.
Yeah, they're gonna have to have a site plan, they're gonna have to have a floor plan, they're gonna have to detail all that out, so you'll have an opportunity to look at it. If it's half baked, you'll just smell it right
Sure.
from the beginning.
Right. And how are we going to require something somewhat of a professional drawing? Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of napkin plans.
Well, it says site plan and floor plan should be drawn accurately to scale,
Okay.
showing property lines and dimensions, location of existing buildings. I mean, calling out utilities, parking stalls, areas. Yeah. I mean, we can add whatever detail you want
No, I
to
thi-
it. I mean, it doesn't say to scale. Yeah, it does. It says drawn accurately to scale.
Yeah, yeah. So that throws
Is
out-
there a home inspection involved in this study then to verify that the drawing matches, if you're going to have a drawing, are you going to have a home inspection to verify that they really do have this in play, or take the word for it?
That's probably a good idea.
We'll probably end up having an inspection because once they create the ADU, we need to make sure that they've
Yeah,
got the
sure.
minimum. They could show a space in the basement as a bedroom and show that there's a window, but it probably may not have a
Yeah.
window. And
And
so
it won't meet code unless you inspect
I'm
it.
gonna add something that says that.
Yeah,
I think at least an option for us. We don't have to always
Yeah,
do it,
whether
but
we
we
do it or
have the
not.
option.
And you might say, I know the home, I know the facility, we're good to go. You may even
Right.
have plans in the city from recent builds, for example.
So let's move into short-term rentals now at the bottom of page 3. I had one main point. I wondered if I put anything else. So go over to page, let's see, 3, 4, 5, the bottom of page 6.
Subsection 8.
Yeah, subsection 8, adding the language, the entire residential structure can be rented as one short-term rental. Renting of individual rooms in a house shall not be permitted. So again, just that same language in the short-term rental piece, you can rent the whole house as a short-term rental. You cannot rent rooms.
Should we expand that to rooms or floors? Because I think the intent, if I read this correctly, the intent was the whole house has to be the
Yes.
short term. Can't be the room, and it can't be basement, first floor, or two different.
Let's add that, or floors.
Did we talk about the fact that short-term rentals are already a nightmare and we don't even want to deal with those? Or
Well,
because don't we just say not
they
allowed?
are a nightmare, and this is, so let me lead that into what the main discussion I wanted to have about these.
Okay.
Here's the problem that many cities are facing along the Wasatch Front. And this is the way some of the cities are dealing with this problem. You've got massive numbers, well, let's just call them companies that are going out and buying up houses and turning them into short-term rentals. And so the way that a number of cities are dealing with this is they're putting provisions in their short-term rental thing that say a short-term rental, okay, so let's back up just one step. This is a conditional use approval. They're going to come to the planning commission with a conditional use approval. The ADU is a permit that's filed with the city. They come in, you approve their permit. This is a conditional use. We can make certain conditions on these things. So they're still going to come to you. Some cities are saying short-term rentals can only be owned by an individual or a trustee of a family trust. They cannot be owned by a corporation, an LLC, a partnership, or any other similar arrangement.
Business entity. or partnership.
Thus eliminating these companies that are coming in and buying up homes all up and down the Wasatch Front. They're not even, they don't even, in many cases, don't even live in the state. They're turning them into basically party houses is what they're becoming, and they're causing all kinds of problems.
And by eliminating those sorts of companies, you eliminate their liability protection,
Now,
which is good.
This is a legal question, Kevin, and I don't know. I always say, as a small city, don't lead the cavalry charge. I
Right.
don't know if these kinds of things can be challenged legally, but I'm just saying these are some of the things that you're starting to see come out there. And maybe we don't want to go that far, but these are real problems that are happening every single day. I probably get 2 or 3 calls a month from some out-of-state buyer saying, what are your rules about short-term rentals?
Huh.
Can I come in there and can I buy up houses and turn them into short-term rentals?
Wow.
The other way to deal with it, Sam, is some cities are saying, not going to have them. Not going to have them at all. Now, Brandon and I believe that that's going to create an enforcement nightmare for the city to say, we believe that it'll be harder for us to enforce saying, you can't do this at all, rather than say, okay, you can do it, but you're going to have to live by a set of rules.
Now, I've been reading a little bit about kind of the similar issues up the Wasatch Front. I've heard of different approaches some cities have taken. Some have said we'll only permit it at the multifamily zoning.
In a certain zoning.
In some ways that kind of makes sense if you're dealing with just like apartment complexes where
An overnight rental.
right. I could see that being maybe a middle ground, but the concern I have about the conditional use is I feel like we'd have to give that more bones so that we could make sure we avoid any sort of accusations of arbitrary and capricious application of who we're willing to give it to, who we're not willing to give it to. One question I have, I don't know the answer to this, and this might be a question for our council for the city, but is there a way to limit a percentage by neighborhood? Only this many in a neighborhood in a certain area can have this permit at a time, because certainly there's the concern about just having way too many. I think there's room for short-term rentals. It's just we want to prevent against the parade of horribles we see in other cities around the state.
You wouldn't want it every other house, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. And so I just don't know. I mean, it's tricky because if you say we're only going to permit this percentage of each neighborhood or each street, and then one person gets in, do they lock it down forever? Or, I mean, I don't
If
know.
we can eliminate them entirely, I suspect you could limit how many there are. The only thing that the state law says right now is that we cannot limit ADUs.
Right.
There is no state law that's saying that you can't prevent or eliminate short-term rentals altogether. That could change down the road, but right now, there's no law stating that you can't limit them.
And it's tricky because
you could limit them to certain zoning districts.
right.
Brandon is going to be the best to know what he knows a number of issues that are going on in the city right now. We could probably expect more of those.
Right.
I really think that this short-term rental is, they're starting to, individuals that have had them, there was someone, I apologize, I don't have their name of the city, but they're like, oh my goodness, what did we get ourselves into by allowing short-term rentals? It wasn't a make-believe deal. Somewhere, can't remember if it was up in Summit County or somewhere, but they said, we just cannot, we wish we could get out of short-term rentals.
Well, kids are renting them and then showing up with
Yeah,
parties with
right.
other
Right.
kids.
Right.
So my recommendation is that if we don't have them, we talked about muddying the waters on some of these dialogues and these word verbiage things we have. I don't know. Are we going to have everybody on our doorstep next week if we say we can't have short-term rentals in Fruit Heights?
Well, we know we've got a number of them already, right?
That have them?
Yeah. Yeah. I can think of 5 of them right now. Just 5 that I'm aware of. And those are the ones that I'm getting calls. What people don't like is strangers wandering around their neighborhoods. They don't know who they are. They just know that they're people that they're not familiar with. And these people, I think of myself. I go on vacation, I do an Airbnb, and what do? Me and my family go out and we wander around.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
But that's the biggest concern is people don't know them and they're out wandering the neighborhoods.
Probably go to a vacation destination, not like
Cherry
Are you
Hill.
saying Fruit Heights is not a vacation destination?
Yeah, I think you're right.
In a lot of places, we're very close to resorts. We're very close to
are.
the lagoon. I mean,
Right.
it's inevitable that people are going to, I mean, yeah.
And we've got, and in a lot of ways, maybe these Airbnbs or these short-term rentals are cheaper you know, when I go and look for one, I don't have to be right downtown LA. I'm okay going out in the outskirts and maybe paying a little bit less.
There's
So,
a guy there's a guy in this city that lives in California, owns a house in this city. He uses it a couple of weeks out of the year when he comes here in the winter to ski, and he rents it out the rest of the time.
Well, it's possible we could do an owner occupied where they have to at least live in that home 183 days of the year.
That is another consideration, and there are some cities that are doing that are saying a short-term rental has to be somehow owner occupied. Now, that just to me just seems so foreign, because who's going to go stay in a short-term rental when the owner's in the next room?
isn't that an Airbnb?
Well, no,
Or
and
a-
I don't think we want that, because I like what you had said there, that it has to be the full unit. But think about, the snowbirds and the folks that are living in St. George part of the year. I'm trying to think, because the trick here is people are going to do it one way or the other. Can we create a system that works for the law abiders, and then we go after those who don't? Or do we outlaw it altogether and just fight the
Is there a
masses?
way for like 3 strikes or something like that if you get? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give them
you're
one, maybe
talking-
two.
One or two. I whatever.
Let's be candid. We're
There-
talking about the fact that you're 20 minutes away from Hotel City in Salt Lake. I mean, if you need to go to Lagoon, you can get hotels set up. It's not like you have to travel 3 hours to get to a hotel. I don't think we're quite, destination wise. I think you can get to ski resorts and everything else. And I don't think you have to have a home in a rental in Fruit Heights, Utah to have to pick up that slack.
The last page of this ordinance talks about complaints and how to deal with them, and basically about issuing warnings and citations for violating this ordinance. So some of that has been built into this, that contemplating that there will be problems.
Yeah. My opinion would be to just, if you say no, because to the points we made about, it's going to be helpful for somebody who wants to buy a property and rent it out while they're done. We'll buy a property and I don't know what to say about that. I just don't think we're that, the St. George demographic right here, when we've got, cities from Ogden to Salt Lake, and then we've got hoteling all the way up and down the Wasatch Front.
Farmington.
I think it'll be very difficult to outlaw it completely.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
If you outlaw it completely, you'll just have those people that are just going to do it.
Yeah.
And then
Well-
you're always having to go after them.
Well, what's that?
Yeah. We're still going.
So Brandon, what's your thought? You're dealing with just the minimal without anything on the books. Are you thinking that having a short-term rental process and allowing something will open the door or close the door?
I have mixed feelings on the whole thing, on IADUs, on short-term rentals. My concerns come from just an enforcement
Mm.
side, right? We are a small city with limited staff, and I'm struggling with code enforcement issues, just weeds and parked cars in the street. And now I'm being forced to deal with Airbnbs, basement apartments, because people
I
are
know.
doing them. And I struggle because it's hard. Now we'll figure it out. We'll figure out a process. I don't know that prohibiting short-term rentals is the answer. I think it's going to happen, and I would rather allow it to happen under
With guidelines.
certain guidelines and requirements, and then go after them when they don't meet the requirements, versus outlaw them and then have to constantly be battling that battle. And I like the idea, what Kevin said, and we as a staff have toyed with that idea. In 50 homes, 7 of them can be short-term rentals. I don't know what that magic number is, but I don't think that Fruit Heights will flip to the point that we have more short-term rentals than we'd have
Full-time residents.
full-time occupants. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll balance out. I just don't know what that balance is.
Think about this too. The whole purpose for the ADU, for the state passing the ADU ordinance was to provide affordable housing options to people that can't afford a house. That was the whole thing. People have flipped that back on the state and are turning those ADUs into short-term rentals, which totally negates that whole effort. Now, you know that this says you cannot have an ADU and a short-term rental. It's one or the other. You can't have an ADU and then rent that out as a short-term rental. You have to decide, I'm either going to have a short-term rental or an ADU. It's not both. So I think that as a city, we're more concerned about creating some affordable housing opportunities. Therefore, we ought to do what we can to encourage the ADU piece of it, not so much the short-term rental. That's why I really like the language to say, all right, you can have a short-term rental, but you're just renting out the whole house. You're not renting out pieces of it. You're not doing any of that nonsense. It's the whole thing. You rent the whole house out.
So real quick then, right now we have on our books or whatever you want to call it.
We don't have anything.
We don't approve it, or we don't disallow it either.
No. Our code is silent. That's why we need to get something in place. So right now,
8 looks good. The entire structure can be rented. I like Kevin's idea. How about something like there's only one allowed within a 1,000-foot radius or something like that. I think Kaysville has something about duplexes that you can only have one duplex within 1,000 feet or something like that.
Do we want to that point, do we know what our neighbors do in Layton, Kaysville, Bountiful, et cetera, and not have to lead out in this whole discussion? And find that out before we go too much farther?
I'm going to do a little bit of research into whether I can find some language about having a limiting factor on short-term rentals in a given area.
Would you do the same thing on an IADU? Because
No, we can't.
why?
We are required by state law to allow it
No, I think that's fine.
in any zone, in any house.
So you're taking, and this is my hang up with it. I, as a property owner, have property rights and I purchase a home in a single family residential subdivision. And you're telling me that my neighbors, all of them, can now turn their single family residential home into a duplex?
The state legislature has told us that, not me.
Unless
Yes.
in Cherry Heights.
Now, I'm going to make
That's
an
right.
exception. There's one exception to that. You can limit up to 25% of your city's zoning from ADUs. Now, what we've done, the way this is written, is we've said anything smaller than 8,000 square feet, you can't do it. That's legal because we can just say, well, that's the 25% of our city that we're eliminating. Now, we could go in and figure it right down to the very percent and say we're going to do it in this, but I have the same problem you do. I don't want my neighbors doing it, but it doesn't matter. The state law says you can't.
Yeah, the problem is all of our legislatures live in ginormous houses and they don't have to deal with it.
They don't have neighbors that close to them to have to wander in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think the
they
changes you
profit
made are
from it.
good and we're in a good position. I would like that research about finding a way because I think that if we can implement it in a very controlled way, that might be the best way to approach it.
Okay.
That's the best way.
I've taken some notes here. I'm going to go back and do some more research and look at some things and then come back and let's talk about it again.
All right.
These are important issues because we will be facing this. We're right in the middle of it now.
We've
So
got it now.
It's not going away. We need to get something on the books so that we can start to control the narrative a bit.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Update on the general plan?
So I sent out a doodle poll for next, well, they're all Tuesdays, but I think the first one was the 31st and then the 7th and the 14th to do a working meeting on the general plan. I don't know if you've had a chance to respond to that doodle poll, but if you would, please just fill out which date works best for you. Basically, I just want to work through that with the planning commission and the city council so that you're all familiar with it. We need to adopt a general plan, and it needs to, it needs to be as well thought out and as well planned out as we can possibly do it. And I need your input and your direction on where we're at. We've spent a significant amount of time to get to where we're at. I personally like what has been presented in the document, and I have my preference in the scenarios, but it would be nice to get your thoughts on both of those scenarios. Everybody gets nervous when you start talking about general plan and what the plan is for open space that is currently being used for other uses. But as this county and as this city continues to grow and open space becomes more and more valuable, I think we have to look at those areas that could potentially be redeveloped, and how do we want those to be redeveloped? It doesn't mean that it's going to happen tomorrow, but 50 years from now it could be, and it would be nice to have a plan. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I would like you to look over these, and I'd be happy to send you the bigger maps of the different scenarios so that you can kind of see how we got to where we're at, and then come prepared when we have that work meeting to talk about that stuff.
Okay. Good.
Do you have any questions for me about the general plan?
I don't. Is there anything more than what was presented the last time when the professionals were here? Okay.
No, that's
They presented, was it 3 scenarios?
two scenarios,
scenarios.
75% open space and 50% open
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
Yeah. And we were supposed to have a work meeting, but there was just too much going on that Tuesday that we had the planning commission meeting and then the city council meeting. So that's why we're rescheduling.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you for that. And so you suggested next Tuesday as the work session. Is that correct? Or was
The
it
31st,
the
yeah,
31st? Okay.
was an option. So it was the 31st, the 7th, or the 14th. The 7th and the 14th are city council meetings. The 31st is an open meeting. We don't have anything going. So
Okay. And I haven't had a chance to look at the minutes. Any other discussion on this before? The public hearing on the water efficient landscape, did that occur last Tuesday?
yes, it occurred last Tuesday.
Any feedback, any washout, any tailings, any?
Yeah, I've got a council woman who is not happy with it. She doesn't like it. She thinks it's too restrictive. Feels like the city shouldn't have any place in telling people how to conserve water, that it should just happen as it happens. I don't obviously agree with the thought process there, but she's not happy.
Was there comment from the public?
There was no comment from the public.
Okay.
Nothing.
Did it pass then?
It passed.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, so it is in force.
It is. Yep, it is. Now, there will probably be some revisions to it. Weber Basin's reviewed it and they're happy with it. So
Okay.
just
Well,
have
good.
one councilwoman that's not.
All right. Okay, next planning commission. Okay, so we will hear then on when the work meeting will be. I guess we'll get, once people kind of put in their two bits of
Yeah.
when they prefer to do
I'll
it?
know tomorrow. It looks like a lot of people responded to that poll. So I'll know tomorrow morning and I'll send an email out to everybody
Okay, so,
based on what you selected as your
okay.
preference.
All right, so we can look forward to that, and then also for the June 21st meeting, correct?
Yes, the June 21st meeting. Now I need to let you know that I will be out of town on the 21st of June. So Jeff is going to be handling the planning commission meeting that night. The 28th is noted on our
Probably just have
agenda.
pizza.
Yeah, there you go.
The 28th is the primary election, so that's why we've moved it to
Okay.
the 21st.
Okay,
Okay,
that will be the regularly scheduled.
Does
regular.
that sound
Regular.
like a date that people can make?
I'll be gone. I'm pushing hand carts and wilderness and all that fun stuff.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else gonna be gone then?
I might have something, but I'll double check that.
Okay.
So we won't have one in June.
I know you're gonna be here, Brian. You gotta be.
Actually, I'll be gone on the 21st as well.
Really?
Yeah,
So that might be, we might have a hard time.
having a quorum.
Having a quorum.
Can you guys let Brandon know? Can you check your schedules? 'Cause if that's not gonna work, we might as well just reschedule it now.
I'm definitely going to be gone.
What about the following week, which would have been our normal?
Well, that's the election?
Oh, that's the election. So that's
We could do it on a Thursday night. We could do it instead of the 28th, we could do it the
23rd or the 30th?
30th.
I can't do the 30th, but I will be back that 23rd. I'll be back by then.
Should we would get Carrie involved and see what everybody can do and just check back?
I'll send another doodle
Sounds
poll
like
out.
21st is
Yeah,
probably
we
not
better
going to
do
happen.
that, 'cause
Yeah.
I don't want to get all geared up and then not have a quorum.
Yeah.
Oh, especially
That'd be
for
terrible.
a final plat approval, if that's what you're looking
That's
for.
what I'm
Yeah.
concerned about.
I would like to be
Yeah,
available or be
I'd like to
present
have
then.
everybody here.
yeah.
Yeah.
So would that just push it into July?
Well, Brandon will set out a
Okay.
poll and see if
Okay.
we can get a time. And
All right.
I think nearly every other Tuesday though I can do, like the 14th. Is that one of them? 14th. I think that would work.
The 7th
Do
and the
that.
14th, maybe. Well,
Yeah, prior to the 21st, yeah.
Problem is I've got to adopt a final budget before the 20th of June. So that's why we have to have that meeting. Maybe we could flop the 7th and the 21st, have the 7th be the planning commission and the 21st be the city council. I don't know.
Why don't we throw that out and see, because that might, are you around the 7th?
Yeah, I can do the
Yeah,
7th.
I'm on the 7th.
Okay. Let me see what I can make happen.
Okay. Yeah, to your point, Jeff, it'd be good to, if we're going to talk about the general plan, to have all of us here.
Well, no, the Rockoff Estates thing is coming down the road.
yeah, you won't get your free lot if you're not here.
Oh,
that little triangle is
Yeah, you
yours.
get the good, oh, cool. So you can have matching ones.
it's only built, the slope is like this. so-
That's
but You
right.
get it.
Slip and slide.
All right. Okay, Brian, you're up. Okay.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
I
Aye. Thanks.